Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the best of the best from the horror movie genre.
Red rum!
Kenny, what's the matter, hon?
Red rum!
Number 100, Child's Play.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
There are certain constants within the realms of horror cinema. Werewolves, vampires, and the undead are certainly among them, but possessed dolls also enjoy a pedigree that dates back decades. Chucky wasn't the first killer toy to scare fright fans, but he certainly is the most famous. This is due to the Child's Play franchise capturing the imaginations of generations with an enduring menace and sense of humor.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. The first person I let in on my little secret was a 6-year-old kid.
What's particularly impressive upon rewatching the original Child's Play is just how much restraint director Tom Holland and crew have with regards to the Chucky reveal. Is the doll possessed by the spirit of serial killer Charles Lee Ray? Or is it all in young Andy's mind? Child's Play takes its time, and in doing so, created a legend.
Hello, Andy.
Number 99, The Wolfman. Larry Talbot's story is similar to Chucky's in that he wasn't the first of his kind on film. Universal Pictures already financed a werewolf picture in 1935, titled Werewolf of London. But it would be 1941's The Wolfman that cemented its lycanthrope into pop culture forever. Lon Chaney Jr. remains a figurehead upon horror's proverbial Mount Rushmore, and it's his portrayal of the Wolfman that many actors still look to for guidance. There's a tragedy at play within Chaney's performance that forever cements Talbot as an accidental monster, a killer who doesn't want to kill. As a result, the regret at these moonlight murders becomes as intrinsically linked with the Wolfman as its menacing howls and the blood-curdling screams of its victims. Number 98, The Beyond. Italian horror films were notorious not only for their extremism, but also for the industry's often esoteric and dreamlike senses of logic. The Beyond serves as an outstanding example of both these ends. A visceral and violent piece that somehow retains an artistic and even melancholic atmosphere of beauty. Director Lucio Fulci was often referred to as Italy's godfather of gore, and there's certainly no shortage of the red stuff here for horror fans.
Harris, what the hell's going on around here?
I don't know. I think I'm going crazy. Here they come!
However, The Beyond also meditates on the hereafter, the occult, and this foreboding sense of futility against fate. And it does so with set pieces that set the bar for cinematic violence in 1981, right up through to the modern day.
Good boy. You made them go away.
Number 97, Paranormal Activity.
Your demon's worthless. You're worthless. Got nothing.
Put the camera away.
The found footage genre can often be a love it or hate it proposition. But there's no denying the original Paranormal Activity as an absolute titan of the medium. Origins of the style can actually be traced back to Italy with 1980's Cannibal Holocaust, but writer-director Oren Peli's supernatural take on found footage is an excellent blueprint for how to create incremental dread.
What the hell? How come my face is scratched and yours isn't?
Something's here.
The intentionally minimalist execution with regards to set pieces and even acting allows Paranormal Activity to cast shadows within the viewer's mind. As a result, it's easy for us to become swept up in the story, right on through to that final shocking ending. Number 96, Hexon. The original Hexon may have been released in 1922, but it was its re-release in 1968, now featuring the subtitling of Witchcraft Through the Ages that's arguably even more famous. This is due not only to the new English narration from famed American author William S. Burroughs. but also how this re-release helped expand the viewership of Häxan to a new generation. Even today, horror fans marvel at the amazing feats of evocative visual effects conceived and executed by writer-director Benjamin Christensen. This is silent horror that delights in accurately representing the fear and paranoia behind witchcraft and the occult. A sensorial feast that is as creepy now as it was over 100 years ago. Number 95, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The devil has always been in the details when it comes to horror cinema. Religious themes boomed during the 1970s in the wake of The Exorcist and The Omen, and that narrative fear of the unknown continues on with The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The plot of this 2005 effort from director and co-writer Scott Derrickson takes from real-life horror history of Anneliese Michel and adapts it to the modern day. Courtroom drama is counterbalanced against horrific flashbacks.
Emily?
And asks tough questions about the efficacy of exorcism as well as clerical responsibility. The end results work well and allow the audience to also measure their own faith and beliefs against the possibility of demonic possession.
Give me your name, demon!
Number 94, Ganja and Hess.
He's alive.
No.
Hess! No! He is alive! He's alive!
No!
The reputation of Ganja and Hess has slowly but surely gained esteem and appreciation since its original release in 1973. The edited home video version, titled Blood Couple, arguably helped keep Ganja and Hess swirling within the public consciousness. But the uncut film also endures today as a formative example of Black creativity within the horror genre. Writer-director Bill Gunn resists the urge to make Ganja and Hess a mere blaxploitation cash-in after the smash success of Shaft, and instead delivers an intentionally brooding, experimental, and atmospheric piece. Symbolism of everything from substance use disorder to religious and marital compunction is present within Ganja and Hess, and the film is highly recommended to any horror fans seeking out something a little different. Number 93, Black Christmas. A number of movies released prior to 1974's Black Christmas contain elements of what would eventually become known as the slasher film. However, it could be argued that this masterpiece from director Bob Clark codified those elements to something truly genre-defining and special. It isn't only the ratcheted-up tension and dread of Black Christmas that makes it great, but also the time Clark spends with his characters. The audience gets to know a lot about these sorority sisters, their motivations, and their backstories. The inevitable slayings feel more earned as a result. And Clark doesn't even give his viewers the satisfaction of a neat ending. Instead, the impact of Black Christmas echoes and reverberates, like the distant and faintly fading sound of a telephone.
Agnes, it's me, Billy.
Number 92, Les Diaboliques. The crux of any good horror film is a great story, and 1955's Les Diaboliques owns one of the true all-timers. It's the sort of tale with no real heroes, questionable motivations, and a classic twist that got adapted time and time again by other films in the decades that followed. Director Henri-Georges Clouzot crafts a melodramatic murder mystery with a lot of supernatural elements, a concoction that would go on to influence Italy's infamous giallo cycle in the late 60s and into the 70s.
No.
Les Diaboliques is style and substance. A potboiler with legitimately creepy atmosphere and an ending that is nothing short of pure brilliance. Number 91, The Mist.
Oh my God. Oh,
Speaking of endings, is there anyone out there that was even remotely anticipating the gut punch finale to The Mist from 2007? Writer-director Frank Darabont shocked everyone when he adapted this novella from Stephen King with one very specific request: a downbeat ending. This shocking turn of events makes The Mist's tales of otherworldly monsters feel even more harrowing, echoing the film's darkly imaginative creature design. Sure, The Mist might have ranked higher on this list had the mid-2000s CGI been replaced with more traditionally practical effects, but this takes nothing away from the film's cultural impact as a whole. That's because everyone remembers where they were when Darabont first sprang that ending on them. Everyone. Number 90, The Wailing. Part police procedural, part occult horror, and part zombie film, 2016's The Wailing is somehow much, much more. This is a modern horror classic that isn't a short watch, but never feels intimidating. Instead, The Wailing invites audiences that are perhaps uninitiated into the worlds of Eastern mysticism and leads them into an almost impenetrable darkness.
효진이? 그래. 걔는 귀신에 홀려갖고 그런 거예요.
Director Na Hung-jin constructs a bleak narrative here, and those looking for popcorn horror frights are almost destined to turn away from The Wailing. However, those seeking a more cerebral and satisfying excursion into terror are well advised to set aside enough time to allow The Wailing to work its magic. Number 89, Insidious. Number 88, The Changeling. Number 87, The Black Phone.
With the door shut, no one can hear anything down here. I soundproofed it myself. So shout if you like, you won't bother anyone.
Number 86, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Number 85, Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat was the little horror movie that could, an anthology flick that was originally intended to be released theatrically, but instead was sent straight to DVD. This could have signaled the death knell for a lesser film, but director Michael Dougherty's dedication to paying respect to horror's past while also striving to be its future shone brightly in direct-to-video hell. Trick or Treat created a minor horror icon in the form of its diminutive mascot Sam, who appears throughout each of the film stories. This is quick-paced storytelling with a wicked sense of humor that's nevertheless unafraid to get downright dark in places. Trick or Treat is a modern horror classic that we re-watch every year. Number 84, Phantasm. Number 83, Reanimator.
Why'd you make that noise?
Birth is always painful.
Number 82, Terrifier 2.
Wait a minute, aren't you that guy from the costume shop? You are. What are you doing here?
Number 81, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
There he is!
Number 80, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Director Dario Argento arguably crystallized the giallo genre with his 1975 opus Deep Red, but it was 5 years earlier and The Bird with the Crystal Plumage where the pieces were beginning to fall into place. The stylish and graphic murders were committed by an unknown assailant wearing fetishized black gloves. The controversial combination of sex and violence. An evocative, untraditional musical score. All of these elements and more went into The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, taking a quirky murder mystery and dragging it, kicking and screaming, into the world of horror. Number 79, The Black Cat.
Did you ever see an animal skin, Hjalmar? That's what I'm going to do to you now. Tear the skin from your body. Slowly.
Number 78, Jacob's Ladder. Number 77, Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive. Number 76, The Others. Number 75, Candyman. The creative sandbox of the 1990s was very different from the previous few decades. As a result, a fresh injection of originality was needed in order to create a new horror icon. Enter Daniel Robitaille, aka Candyman. Tony Todd entered the horror pantheon back in 1992 when he took on the titular role in Bernard Rose's film.
Be my victim. I am the writing on the wall.
Granted, the character's official backstory wouldn't be revealed until the 1995 sequel, subtitled Farewell to the Flesh. But the Robitaille tragedy went a long way into inspiring the 2021 Candyman remake. The Candyman franchise is actually rather consistent when it comes to quality, but there's no denying the gothic melancholy and bloody power that lies behind Todd's original portrayal of this hook-handed master of bees. Number 74, The Hills Have Eyes.
The heart of your stinking memory. I eat the brains of your kids! I'm in! You're out!
Number 73, The Orphanage.
1, 2, 3, toca la pared.
Number 72, Pearl.
I love you, Daddy, but this is no way to live.
Pearl?
Number 71, Audition.
あなたはもう動けない。体は死ぬけど、神経だけは起こしておいてあげます。
Number 70, The Invisible Man. The character of the Invisible Man is one that's intrinsically linked with old-school horror. But what do you do when you'd like to slap a fresh coat of creative paint upon that archetype? Writer-director Lee Winnell did so wonderfully with his 2020 iteration of The Invisible Man. Here, the focus shifts from the devious temptations of invisibility to a man who's already pretty reprehensible before he disappears. Instead, it's Elizabeth Moss who shines as a woman stalked by this invisible ex, all while attempting to alert others to her danger. It's serious stuff, and taken seriously by Winnell, who directs The Invisible Man almost like a horror-fueled update of The Burning Bed, starring Farrah Fawcett. It's powerful stuff.
Get back in bed, now.
Number 69, Raw.
Pourquoi tu ouvres la porte là, putain?
Il a aucune chance.
Number 68, Wreck. Number 67, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Number 66, Videodrome. Number 65, The Conjuring. If The Conjuring as a franchise has taught us one thing, it's the old adage of never let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's because this series, and particularly its original film entry from 2013, have given us two wonderful performances from Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. The actors portray fictionalized versions of the real-life Ed and Lorraine Warren, who rose to fame on their claims to be paranormal investigators.
I'm sitting here with Karen, her parent, and with her family, and has been experiencing supernatural occurrences. Go ahead.
The Conjuring provides all of the horror jump scares and demonic possessions we expect from a film like this. But where it really shines is with Wilson and Farmiga's chemistry. What can we say? We just love to see these two be in love. And fight off ghosts, of course.
She won't let her leave the house.
What? What do you mean?
If we take her out, the witch will kill her.
Number 64, Barbarian. Number 63, Hellraiser.
The box. You opened it. We came.
Number 62, The Wicker Man.
There will be no traces. Bring him up, Oak.
God. No! Think! Just think what you're doing! Think what you're doing! Think!
Number 61, Train to Busan. Number 60, Friday the 13th. It's difficult to remember if you weren't there, the absolute glut of slasher films that erupted in a post-Friday the 13th world. Granted, Pamela Voorhees and her son Jason were not the first maniacs to stalk their victims with style, but the original Friday the 13th arguably helped usher in the era of slasher villains as rock stars into the cultural zeitgeist.
How are you? Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, an old friend of the Christies.
Granted, the template of randy teenagers, secluded woods, and a bunch of bad ideas was not exactly novel in 1980, but Friday the 13th outdid them all with viciousness and a mean spirit. Plus, the film is a genuinely great whodunit to boot. We wish every Friday was Friday the 13th. Number 59, A Quiet Place. Number 58, It Follows.
Don't open the door. See? Everything's okay.
Number 57, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Number 56, The Phantom of the Opera. Number 55, Eraserhead. If one were to look up the phrase idiosyncratic into a hypothetical encyclopedia of film, then it's likely that a photo of David Lynch might be the first thing they saw. That's because Lynch has carved a career out of doing things his own way, caring little about whether or not his audience understands the vision. Eraserhead is one such film, a cult classic that gained steam with audiences appraising its merit on the midnight movie circuit. It's a heady trip of industrial sound collages, nightmarish imagery, and strange performances. But there's more going on underneath the surface. Fears of fatherhood and sex are but two themes that are going on within the narrative, with Eraserhead pulling no punches with regards to its transgressive content. Number 54, The Host. Number 53, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Jack! 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 Jack, wake up! Its eyes. Oh, Jack, it opened its eyes.
Number 52, House on Haunted Hill.
Nora?
Number 51, The Cabin in the Woods.
They made us choose. They made us choose how we die.
Number 50, Freaks. Freaks may be preserved today within the halls of the National Film Registry, but sadly, the original version of this cult classic is lost to the sands of time. Or rather, make that the MGM editing room. That's because the hullabaloo regarding Freaks was almost instantaneous back in 1932. This was due primarily to the casting of real sideshow industry performers with legitimate disabilities.
So you see, monsieur, when I get a chance, I like to take them into the sunshine and let them play like children.
Today, this fear of freaks can largely be chalked up to prejudice, since director Todd Browning's film is largely seen as presenting the titular characters as sympathetic rather than villainous. As a result, Freaks, though certainly scary, avoids the label of exploitation and instead enjoys a modern-day reputation as an all-time classic.
They are going to make you one of them, my peacock.
Number 49, Let the Right One In.
Vad glor du på? Va? Är det mig du glor på? Skrik då! Skrik!
Number 48, Cat People. Number 47, It. Number 46, 28 Days Later. Number 45, Godzilla. Here's a question. Is Godzilla a horror or a sci-fi film? Well, one could answer both, but what sets both the original Gojira and its King of the Monsters variation from many of its sequels is tone. It's well established today that Godzilla the monster is an analogy for nuclear war, specifically the American bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II.
臨時ニュースを申し上げます。臨時ニュースを申し上げます。その後、ゴジラは京浜地区に向かって接近しつつあります。上陸地点の鉄条網には強力なる電流を通じますから慎重なる注意を要します。
However, what Godzilla the film does so well is present these monster attacks as something truly harrowing. The destruction and devastation committed by Godzilla is not taken for granted, and the usage of the oxygen destroyer to kill the original Big G is given the same sort of grave reverence as Fat Man and Little Boy. This Godzilla is no joke.
右手を塔にかけました。ものすごい力です。いよいよ最後。さようなら皆さん。さようなら。
Number 44, Ju-on, The Grudge. Number 43, Carnival of Souls. Number 42, The Descent. Number 41, The Witch.
What will you from me?
Dost thou see a book before thee?
Number 40, Saw.
Was there someone else at your house last night? Besides your wife and daughter? No. Well, there's someone here.
The Saw franchise would go on to become something of a Halloween tradition over the years, with multiple sequels, prequels, and spin-offs. There's certainly been a case of diminishing returns with many of those films, yet it's important to remember the impact of the OG Saw when it was released back in 2004. Both Tobin Bell and his creepy puppet live rent-free within horror fans' nightmares, and Jigsaw has to be one of millennial horror's most intriguing and enduring villains.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you.
Additionally, the construction of Jigsaw's traps and his motivations would go on to capture moviegoers' imaginations all around the world. And that has to count for something. Number 39, Dawn of the Dead.
Intelligence, seemingly little or no reasoning power, but basic skills remain are more remembered behaviors from normal life.
Number 38, Black Sunday.
Kuruvayan, Kuruvayan, I've been waiting for you.
Number 37, The Babadook. Number 36, Don't Look Now.
Come on.
Darlings.
Wait.
Number 35, The Blair Witch Project.
My boots aren't laced. Oh my God, what the f*** is that? What the f*** is that?
Never underestimate the marketing. The viral campaign to create a buzz behind 1999's The Blair Witch Project worked really well. Perhaps a little too well, since many went into their viewing experience taking the documentary bait, hook, line, and sinker.
I'm gonna die out here.
Of course, we've already mentioned how found footage films like The Blair Witch Project were riding upon the creative coattails of Cannibal Holocaust. Yet this one still stands out as a titan among the pack. The Blair Witch Project does so much with so little, setting up likable characters and palpable dread together with a lore that feels lived in and scary. It may not possess the same punch in the modern day, but audiences in 1999 frankly were not ready for The Blair Witch Project. Number 34, An American Werewolf in London.
Tomorrow night's the full moon. You're gonna change. You'll become...
I know. A monster.
Number 33, Peeping Tom.
Switch it off, Mom! Mom, switch it off! Let's get out of here.
Number 32, Eyes Without a Face. Number 31, The Haunting.
Are you awake? Don't say a word, Theo, not a word. Don't let it know you're in my room.
Number 30, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Silent horror has received a lot of love throughout this list, and with good reason. There's just something naturally spooky about these classics, including 1920's The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Additionally, this German expressionist film from director Robert Wiene was incredibly influential with regards to its visual style. It's easy to connect the modern-day imagination of Tim Burton with the twisted lines, sharp angles, and evocative lighting present within Dr. Caligari. Additionally, The film has raised questions from film scholars over the years with regards to its theme. Is Caligari a political film? Yes. Is Caligari a horror film? Also yes. More than anything, however, it's a wonderful film. Number 29, Evil Dead 2. Number 28, The Mummy. Number 27, The Sixth Sense.
Open this door, please. God, I can't breathe. If you can hear me, open this door. I swear on my life I didn't take the master's horse. Open this door, I'll break through it and grab you.
Number 26, The Birds. Number 25, Poltergeist. The legacy of Poltergeist is so much more than the sum of its infamous parts. Today, the film is arguably more known for what went on behind the scenes than in front of the camera. However, we shouldn't let ideas of an alleged curse, questions of direction, nor the real-life tragedies of Dominique Dunne and Heather O'Rourke distract from Poltergeist as a whole. It's a remarkably well-crafted horror film with memorably warm and engaging performances from its cast. It's also a great entry-level fright for young kids seeking to dip their toes into some heavier stuff. There's just so much right with Poltergeist that it remains a go-to yearly watch for many horror fans to this day. Number 24, Carrie.
Trust me, Carrie.
Number 23, The Omen.
Damon! Damon! No, 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 no!
Number 22, The Fly.
I'm scared. Help me. Please help me.
Number 21, Dracula.
Punish me, torture me, but let me live. I can't die with all those lives on my conscience, all that blood on my hands.
Number 20, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Please, God.
This is God.
We mentioned earlier this idea about slasher villains as rock stars. The character of Freddy Krueger is one such example of this idea, to the point where the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise toned down the character's heinous backstory. Instead, subsequent sequels presented Freddy as a wisecracking centerpiece, as opposed to a villainous force of nature. Wes Craven's first film, however, possesses no such distinction.
This is just a dream. He isn't real. He isn't real.
Here, Krueger is depicted as deadly, malevolent, and capable of true wickedness. The jokes are kept to a minimum, the young protagonists insanely likable, and the horror at full tilt from first frame to last. Number 19, The Innocents. In the world of classic horror, there are ghost stories, and then there's The Innocents. This 1961 masterpiece may have been adapted from Henry James's novella The Turn of the Screw and screenwriter Truman Capote's adaptation of his collaborator's stage play, but it's also in no shortage of original ideas. This all boils down to execution and atmosphere, a growing sense of unease, paranoia, and self-doubt that The Innocents builds to a feverish pitch. The idea of innocence possessed is juxtaposed against stress-induced hallucinations among an honest-to-goodness ghost story. The special effects and haunting music remain effective today, making The Innocents a film that you should definitely lift to the top of your to-watch list.
Love me. Love me. Love me. Love me.
Number 18, Suspiria. Dario Argento's 1977 masterpiece is a once-in-a-lifetime event that must be seen to be believed. Suspiria is an audio-visual feast for the senses, a film that combines the prog rock score of Goblin with Argento's proven ability to develop some of the most gut-wrenching murder set pieces in film history. Oh, but we're not done. Suspiria also possesses lighting to die for and sound design that sets those little hairs on your arm alive with fear and trepidation. The film's confusing narrative only adds to the unease present at Helena Marcus's Dance Academy, a psychedelic horror nightmare from which you might never awake.
Iris, gira quello blu! Il segreto è, ho visto oltre la porta! Iris, gira quello blu!
Number 17, Ringu. The early 2000s saw a glut of Americanized remakes of Japanese horror films from the 90s. The Ring from 2002 was one of the more successful. But perhaps more creatively satisfying is its source material, 1998's Ringu. The plot remains relatively the same. A cursed videotape is causing the deaths of anyone who views it 7 days after the incident. The visuals are also similarly stylish, creepy, and unsettling. Moreover, the success of both Ringu and The Ring allowed for a deeper understanding and appreciation of international horrors in the modern day, which is always a good thing. Number 16, The Thing.
Bennings was right there, Mac. I swear to God it had a hold of him.
It seems hard to believe now that John Carpenter's The Thing was a financial and critical disappointment back in 1982. A lot of real-world factors likely contributed to this outcome, but whatever the reason, Carpenter's legacy as a genre-defining director remains secure in the modern day. This is thanks in part to films like The Thing, which not only boasts bar-setting special effects, but also a compelling narrative and bold performances from its ensemble cast.
Windows, blast him!
Carpenter's loose remake of 1951's The Thing from Another World inserts relentless paranoia and incessant nihilism into the mix, possessing a bleak tone and an ambiguous ending. That chill in the air is real. You can't trust anyone. You can only be sure that the thing is out there.
Well, what do we do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Number 15, Hereditary.
And I can't forgive. Because nobody admits anything they've done!
The world of horror cinema has experienced a renaissance as of late, with many pictures presenting a certain prestige crossing over into the cultural zeitgeist. Hereditary was one of those films. A talking point debut from director Ari Aster that was followed up in 2019 by the folk horror-inspired entry titled Midsommar. Hereditary attempts to elevate the medium via a possession story that feels somewhat removed from genre tropes, and instead pursues pastures of emotional and social commentary. Meanwhile, the back end swings back around to revel in the unsafe and unhinged, leaving many horror fans satisfied and searching for more. Number 14, Rosemary's Baby.
Come on, open up, Ro.
Go to hell!
Come on, honey. No one's gonna hurt you.
You promised them the baby!
No, I
Get out!
promise
promise him anything. What are you talking about? Promise who?
Speaking of social commentary, the ability of horror films to successfully tap into certain topics beneath their surface level of fear is one that continually draws us into the medium. Rosemary's Baby may be an occult-obsessed story of demonic rebirth, but it's also a commentary upon motherhood and a woman's place in society. There seems to be a systemic hierarchy of individuals out to control Rosemary Woodhouse's life at every turn, from her husband and friends to her doctor and all of them witches who seem to follow her every move.
Oh, I know that house. The Gilmores used to live there. Oh? Yeah. Oh, I've been there lots of times. Grace, that's one of my favorite names.
Rosemary's Baby is no dream, and indeed, Rosemary does give birth to Satan's child. But perhaps even more frightening is her near-complete helplessness throughout the whole ordeal.
Oh, Andy, oh, Jenny. I'm sorry, my little darling. Forgive me.
Number 13, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There have been a number of worthy sequels to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre over the years, but none of them quite captures the same uncomfortable atmosphere. This was a film that was notoriously challenging to shoot for director Tobe Hooper and crew, and the fruits of that discomfort are readily visible on screen. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a film that you can practically smell, a location where the heat almost radiates from the screen, and every character feels at their breaking point. Leatherface is a horror icon, sure, but the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is also a microcosm all its own, a testament to die-hard DIY horror that lives and breathes a cinematic spirit. Number 12, Scream.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Was Scream the first horror movie to utilize meta-humor or commentary? No, since films like Student Bodies and There's Nothing Out There had both poked fun and lambasted cliché horror tropes back in the 80s and early 90s. However, it could be argued that Wes Craven's Scream did so in a way that felt fresh and revitalized.
Jimmy, look behind you. Look behind you. Turn around. Behind you. Oh, turn behind you.
This is smart horror writing that's still unafraid to be a horror film. Sure, Sidney Prescott may admonish bad horror actresses who run up the stairs instead of out the front door, but what does Sidney do herself when she's confronted by Ghostface? You get the idea. Scream was a joy to watch back in '96, and the franchise is still going strong today. Number 11, Nosferatu. It can prove difficult sometimes for younger horror fans to understand the hype behind fright flicks of old. Thankfully, films like Nosferatu have been preserved for generations, films that still pack a spooky punch over a century removed from their heyday. Specifically, all of the flowers need to be laid at the feet of Max Schreck as Count Orlok. He of the long fingers and sharp fangs who served as the stuff of nightmares for our parents, grandparents, and their parents. Schreck simply kills it in this silent shocker, pardon the pun, slowly and maniacally haunting our minds with that hollowed-out stare and determined, persistently slow gait. It doesn't really matter how you see it. Consider Nosferatu an integral part of any well-balanced horror diet. Number 10, Get Out.
Get out. Sorry, man.
Okay.
Get out! Yo!
Jordan Peele's 2017 film Get Out built upon established body snatcher tropes set by horror predecessors and presented them through modern lenses of racial disparity and discrimination. As a result, Get Out feels both like a personal cinematic statement while also serving as an effective horror offering.
Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
The tension and misdirection feel earned, the comedic beats satisfying and not overdone, and the performances, though occasionally exaggerated, are memorable. Get Out is another one of those horror films that achieved enough critical and commercial success to raise the genre's cultural visibility to a new level.
You ruined my
Number 9. Night of the Living Dead.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
It serves modern audiences well to imagine what the horror landscape was like back in the late 60s when George Romero released Night of the Living Dead. The atomic age of giant monsters wasn't that far in the rear view, and the more transgressive slices of horror cinema were largely imported from European directors. This is just one reason why Romero and Night of the Living Dead are so important.
More ghastly with each report. It's difficult to imagine such a thing actually happening, but these are the reports we have been receiving and passing on to you. Reports which have been verified as completely as is possible in this confused situation.
Here was an American filmmaker pushing boundaries with regards to thematic grotesqueries that were heretofore unknown. There are no irradiated monsters here, but instead, real human drama played out against our friends and neighbors, who are all seeking their proverbial pound of flesh. Number 8. Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The legacy of Jaws is one that hits upon multiple levels of cultural relevance. On the one hand, Steven Spielberg's film helped usher in the age of the summer blockbuster, yet it did so at no expense to its creativity or storycraft. This was a movie that was forced to adapt to a mechanical shark that frankly wouldn't work, and in doing so created a legend. This was a movie that wisely changed the worst aspects of Peter Benchley's original novel to create characters that would last a lifetime. This was a movie that literally instilled a fear of the ocean within some viewers, and which provided generational thrills and chills. Jaws is pretty much perfect. Perfect to watch anytime, every time, all the time.
No whistles! No whistles!
Everybody, please get out of the water.
Number 7. Halloween. Speaking of movies we can watch all the time, hands up if you watch John Carpenter's Halloween every October. You're not alone, of course, since Carpenter's perennial slasher classic has gone on to help define the genre. This is another horror film that leaps wide over genre conventions and boundaries to become something larger than itself. The characters of Halloween, from Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode to Annie Brackett and Tommy Doyle, capture our creative imaginations. They've even gone on to reappear decades later in retconned reimaginings of Carpenter's universe. Halloween just gets it all right, from the fluid camera work and iconic musical score to its palpable sense of menace and dread. Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Number 6. The Silence of the Lambs.
I think it would be quite something to know you in private life.
Quid pro quo, Doctor.
Is The Silence of the Lambs a legitimate horror film or a psychological thriller? It doesn't really matter which side of the fence you reside on, because Jonathan Demme's film has gone on to metamorphosize into something bigger than itself. The character of Hannibal Lecter is one that's been adapted wonderfully by different actors, from Brian Cox to Mads Mikkelsen. Yet Sir Anthony Hopkins' performance here remains firmly iconic.
Tell me who decapitated your patient, Doctor.
All good things to those who wait. I've waited, Clarice, but how long can you, a dull Jackie boy, wait?
The Silence of the Lambs isn't just about Hopkins as Lecter, of course, since Jodie Foster also puts in a wonderfully vulnerable yet determined performance as Clarice Starling. Demme's film may be a procedural, but it possesses enough realistic horror to haunt our psyches for decades to come. Number 5. Alien.
Move down! Get out!
Ridley Scott's Alien is another film with some very worthy sequels and spin-offs. Yet it's only Scott's OG vision that truly belongs within the annals of horror. The slow burn feeling of isolation and mystery, combined with the xenomorph's near slasher villain appeal, makes Alien feel less action-oriented than its counterparts. This is definitely not a bad thing either, since it allows not only for us to understand our human characters more, but also to ramp up what's inevitably going to happen to them on the Nostromo. Many films have taken the Alien blueprint and run with it for all they're worth. Yet Ridley Scott's achievement still stands alone as a titan of interstellar horror.
Cover it with a damn thing, will you? That's behind it.
That's a reflex action.
Number 4. Frankenstein.
No, you're hurting me! No!
The Universal monsters weren't just icons of the silver screen back in their day. They've gone on to become synonymous with classic horror, and those who helped shape the genre as it's known today. James Whale's adaptation of the Mary Shelley novel Frankenstein is among the best and most classic Universal horror pictures.
It's alive! Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
It established so many of the tropes we now take for granted, from the mad scientist archetype to the sympathetic monster's tragic demise. Additionally, Frankenstein is well-paced and atmospheric, a far cry from the occasionally stodgy execution that would mar contemporary films of the day. Simply said, Frankenstein and its 1935 sequel Bride of Frankenstein just hold up.
It's Frankenstein! That way!
Number 3. The Shining.
It's his mother. She interferes.
Perhaps they need a good talking to.
There have been many haunted house movies throughout the years. We've even seen some previously on this list. But The Shining is the greatest of them all. Stephen King's story uses its haunted hotel trappings to explore deeper and more personal themes. The core plot involves the Torrance family moving into an empty hotel over the winter. Of course, the performances and Stanley Kubrick's filmmaking are both transcendent, but the movie generates many of its scares from the human issues at play.
Wendy! Stay away! Darling! Light of my life! I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Exploring themes of alcohol use disorder, generational trauma, family dysfunction, and cabin fever, The Shining deftly combines its horrifying supernatural scares with a deeply troubling story of mental degradation. We don't know which aspect is scarier.
Hello, Danny.
Number 2. The Exorcist.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Many films within the Exorcist franchise have attempted to do something new with the formula that director William Friedkin helped establish back in 1973. However, none of them possess the same lightning-in-a-bottle black magic that allowed Friedkin's original to strike such a public nerve. It's not hyperbole to say that The Exorcist changed the landscape of horror forever back in 1973, paving the way for so many other films that revel in satanic panic.
What's that?
Holy water.
You keep it away.
Yet this panicked and feverish feeling of danger still resides within The Exorcist so many years later. This allows for Friedkin's film to scare so many horror fans for generation after generation. It's just that good.
By this sign of the Holy Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damien!
Amen.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Psycho. Peeping Tom and Psycho were released in the same year, 1960. They were both helmed by British directors, Michael Powell and Alfred Hitchcock. Cinematic transgression wasn't exactly commonplace during this time, yet why did Hitch's film go on to become a classic while Powell's resides within cult appreciation? Well, marketing for starters. The legacy of the "no one will be allowed in" policy after the first number of minutes helped, as did Hitchcock's notable showmanship and cameos in his trailers. Beyond this, however, Psycho quite frankly still chills to the bone. Anthony Perkins shines as Norman Bates throughout the entire franchise. Yet his playing off stars Vera Miles and Janet Leigh here in the original Psycho is a sight to behold. It is truly perfect. What's your take on our top 100? Let us know in the comments.
Mrs. Bates.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.